Greetings TTRPG fans and enthusiasts, I'm your host and narrator John. Welcome to Legitcast episode 17, and today we are joined by Jackie, the creator of Crucible of Aether. How are you, Jackie?
Very, very good. Super excited to talk to you and just to talk about this game in general.
If you're watching us on chat, we are live. Everything you can have, if you're watching us on Twitch rather, you can drop your questions. We will do our best to answer them. If you're watching us later on YouTube, drop a like and subscribe, and I will make sure I will awaken the chat, the Nightbot. It requires a few nudges before it awakens, and supposedly it will drop the link to your Kickstarter, Crucible of Aether, every 5 or 6 minutes or so. Let's talk about Crucible of Aether. It's an indie TTRPG that came out a few months ago. It was very, very successful first Kickstarter, and there are still late releases, right?
Very much so. Yeah, we had a very successful Kickstarter, an incredibly successful Kickstarter, which I was over the moon about. And we are now taking that money and using it for development. And honestly, we still have late pledges open just because we want to make sure that as many people as possible get access to the game early. And also just any additional funding will just make the game even better with better art, with we can just pay the team even better, all that kind of stuff.
That's great. All right, let's dig into the game, because that's what today's all about. Let's start with the general idea, the concept of the game. How would you describe it? What the game is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a mystic industrial RPG in a setting that sort of blends kind of Victorian fantasy with eldritch horror, with strange mysticism and things like that. And mechanically, it's very much designed as a fully sort of tangible and simulationist world, a game that is entirely about the players being able to live and grow within this setting, and really just not just have a series of adventures, but become a history of their adventures.
There are certainly some very interesting mechanics that tie well with this thing. But before we get to the mechanics, tell me the idea, the conception behind it, like the story, how you decided to create your own RPG, and then let's start with that. The idea.
Yeah, of course. So many years ago, as I'm sure all of us that are really into tabletop RPGs have done at one time, I had a really cool idea for a setting that I wanted to bring to my table, and it was just a setting. It was a very, very rudimentary version of what you have here, right? It's this dark Victorian fantasy world that is focusing very heavily, as you do with a lot of industrial fantasy, on class politics, on struggles between nations, things like that. And I wanted to bring it actually to my Pathfinder first edition game, and started building it out. And when this system is not good for this setting, I always kind of quote the same thing, which is I realized I wanted to have a setting where specifically firearms were a big turning point in technology, and realized mechanically in Pathfinder, a 12th level fighter can take a few shotgun blasts to the face without dying. I went, okay, this isn't gonna work. So I started looking around, and there are games that are we're a little bit okay with it, but nothing really matched up, where they were too setting dependent. So I just started building out a system to match the world. And then as I built out the system, I started building out the world to match the system, and then the system to match the world. And now I have this just absolutely wonderful, fleshed out game, fleshed out setting, and it's honestly just super cool to see it come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said, is it the setting that brings out the mechanics, or the other way around, or it cuts both ways? Tell me about the team behind it, behind the game, and about the artworks that we see over there actually on the slideshow.
Yeah. So a lot of the art is done by our artist that's been with us since the beginning, Emily Chapman, who honestly is responsible for the style of Crucible of Aether, because I decided, maybe out of insanity or creativity, you decide, is that I didn't want to have any human characters, but didn't want to go with traditional elves or anything like that in my fantasy world, things like that. So I started creating all of these different characters with these different animal traits, but didn't want them to be sort of traditional anthropomorphic animal characters. And she just brought all of them to life in a way that is just so evocative. And I am incredibly impressed and thankful that she has done what she's done for us. And then beyond that, I have an amazing team. Mike McInerney, who is my second in command, who is writes some of the best lore and really just is. I describe him as my sanity, where I keep coming up with the ideas to sort of flesh out this world and to flesh out this game. He's the person responsible for making it all make sense. And he keeps me on track, and that's why the game is what it is. I also am so fortunate to have Tim Appleby, who is our layout and design, and I recently brought in two editors, Casey Crook and Marcy Miller, who have just, speaking of making things make sense, they have made it make sense and beautiful.
That sounds like a very, very nice team. So let's get to always my favorite subject, which is like the story and the lore. You mentioned that's both like steampunkish, but it includes a lot of mystical and mysticism elements. And also you mentioned that there are no human playable races. It's like, tell me about like the world and the races and the magic and technology, these types of stuff. And maybe cultures, whatever else comes to mind. Drop me everything, all the lore. Of
course. I assume this interview is going to be about 7 hours, because I'm going to start right now. But no, for real, it's so the basic conceit is the main setting of the game takes place within a great empire called the Empire of Odeos, which is an empire built atop the ruins of sort of this long disappeared, highly technologically advanced people called the Dactyl. Their technology is this like strange, almost Geiger-esque biomechanical technology that the people who would found the Odean Empire are utilizing to fuel their industrial revolution. So what I mean by this is, I say it's a steampunk setting, right? I say it's a steampunk setting. But there was no steam engine. Sometimes I jokingly call it steampunk without steam. But it is, instead of having like, oh, someone invented the steam engine and the Industrial Revolution happens, this empire is just hooking their factories, their technology, up to these old eldritch machines, these specifically these like ever-turning gears of fleshy metal, and letting that power their factories, letting that power their technology. On top of that, instead of it just being sort of a rush of an invention from, random scientists, a lot of the major technology is invented by these strange transformed robot people that get kind of inspiration of inventions in their dreams and end up creating things in a sort of a fugue state where their whole organization needs to even figure out what they invented after they invented it. And this whole kind of mix of like, there is a constant rush of technological progress that all of which's origins are a little bit unknown and a little bit out of the control of the people that are dealing with it, has led to, a lot of these kind of eldritch horror that exists in the setting, right? Where those ancient technologies are, there are also monsters. Where those robot people are getting their dreams, there is also strange and sometimes cruel gods. On top of this, magic just exists in the setting as a form of collective belief. So almost all of the magic in the setting comes from religions, and they're kind of conflicting myths, kind of butting up against each other. You might have the priest of one religion that is a sort of a magical violinist and illusionist, while another one might be an undead that can, suck the souls to power their robotic technology. And on top of this, on top of these kind of greater fantastical elements, thematically, it is very much a story about, like with many Industrial Revolution stories, a story about class struggle. It is a story about the different political ideologies growing in these nations, and sort of really sitting in and analyzing what they mean for the people that live there in the all walks of life, and really kind of getting down into the minutia. Generally because I very much believe, when it comes to writing a setting, that when you zoom out in a fantasy setting, right, it should be big, it should be strange, it should be exciting, there should be gods, there should be magic, there should be other dimensions, things like that. But when you zoom in and you have these very personal stories, I want to see stories about class, I want to see stories about identity, I want to see stories about just capitalism run amok, about stories of just different groups being erased and fighting back, and so forth, and just like really telling these very personal stories while having it exist within this kind of massive and strange world.
So basically, let's go to the magic and divine and eldritch connections. You mentioned like the inventors see their designs into their dreams, which I'm guessing are like eldritch type of dreams, something like whispers to their ear, abhorrent and crazy devices, something like that, right?
Very much so. And a lot of the inventions that they end up making are very like particular to the time. So I use this example of one of the first dreams that happens within the setting, within the history, is just the fireball. Right? The first thing that sparks the Industrial Revolution, that sparks these creations, is just this tool of violence that is immediately used to, overturn empires, to cause mass death. And this is kind of setting the themes and what I want to express with these strange and eldritch dreams.
And about the gods are like, I guess there's not like alignment in the game in the traditional D&D sense, but are there like all types of gods in a pantheon that you would expect, like evil god, like god of death or god of life or whatever, stuff like that? Or are they...
This is one of my favorite parts of the setting, because so there are a bunch of different religions with their own different pantheons, with their own different mythologies, all of these things. And they all kind of conflict with each other. And, there isn't very clearly like one clear pantheon. However, as you kind of zoom out, a lot of this is existing because of this, we'll call it an interdimensional web called the Bind, which is connecting all living beings to reality. And it is kind of through people's connection to the Bind, and which is powered, by the way, by a magical force called Aether, hence the name of the game, is that these gods are sort of somewhat created, but to say that they're created is a little too black and white. It's more just like what people would refer to as the power of gods is created in this kind of wishy-washy interdimensional space that allows simultaneous myths to exist while also conflicting, while also empowering and all.
This is how the title of the game all fits in, like the Crucible of that Aether, right?
Yes, yeah. So it is a world that is powered and shaped and molded and changed by the magical force of Aether, and the players themselves are being forged by it, right? It is a game all about your character interacting with the world and being changed by it. Hence the Crucible part of it, right? You are changed and grow through your challenges in this world, in the Crucible of Aether.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about those player characters and their options. Tell me about the the races that are available and type of progression or like classes or like the equivalent of classes of your game.
Yeah, so what's really cool is that the game doesn't really... Well, okay, so the game has these origins, which are these different sort of animal folk. There are the Keanosins, these canine folk, the Valthurians, who are these bird people that actually came from a completely other dimension and are trying to sort of discover their history. There's the Assyrians, these bug people that tend to believe in a terrible, hellish afterlife that they are trying to avoid by ending death. And there are these rat folk that are born from those bird people, which has caused the bird people to really freak out about the rat folk, and they're trying to figure out what's happening with those guys. And beyond that, when it comes to character creation, it's a pseudo life path system, right? You end up picking your background, a little bit of character traits, sort of like how you were raised, what sort of ways you spent your early life, and then kind of what starting career path you're on. And I say career. And I don't want people to get confused by thinking I mean, okay, you pick your background, you pick your class. That's not what's happening. The career system in the game are these basically skill trees, and you get to start off with one of them, and they could be all kinds of things. They are any faction and vocation. So they could be something as simple as a cook, as a domestic worker, as a blacksmith, but they could also be the various different soldiers, assassins guilds, magical users, mechanical knights, and all of these things. And as you actually play the game, you can unlock literally a infinite amount of it. You are able to join any faction that exists within the world, and there is a skill tree for it. You are able to pursue any vocation, and there is a skill tree for it. And you become these collections of adventures, these factions you've joined, and jobs that you've pursued, and this becomes more and more who you are. This is paired, actually, to go into it, really nicely with the skill system, which is a level up as you use the skill system. So, get better at talking by talking to people, get better at fighting by fighting people, and so forth. So pairing that with the career system, you really do start off when you play the game as like, oh, I was raised by a blacksmith and ended up joining a guild of magical violinists. But by session 3 or 4, maybe because of the story that you're working on, or the story that the GM is working on, or a combination of both, all of a sudden you find yourself part of some mercenary company, and you have that ability, and all of a sudden you're really good at using firearms and sneaking, and it's very cool.
Yet, from what I've read and what I understand, first of all, you're using a d100 system, right?
Very much.
Yeah, this is like the best system, I have to say. I'm kind of biased because I use the same in my game, but still it is the best. Yeah, I think it's the best game to explain to people who have percentages, and if you roll your percentage, you're successful. No modifiers, no advantages, and I think it's the easier to explain. But the thing that you have that I find very unique, very fresh, and very interesting, but correct me if I'm not getting this right. Let's say during a session, I had like a scene where my character did some parkour, climbed some stuff, and then used the rifle and shot from a distance. During the end of the session, or like up the next session, I can progress parkour and shooting marksmanship, let's say, right? Like the things that I actually roll and play, these are the things that I can develop, right?
Absolutely, but it's even more immediate. You get XP and you advance these things not at the end of the session, not afterwards. It is immediate. So you could, I always tell the story, which is that like, you could be in the middle of a session and you're trying to break into some, say, Lord's Manor, and you end up disguising yourself as the local cook, and you get into the kitchen, you start doing stuff. You're getting XP immediately in cooking. And so you will have cooking skills for the rest of the session and the rest of the campaign. you don't need to wait and think about what you did during the adventure. It is immediate. I kind of joke that Crucible of Aether, more so than many other games, is the number go up RPG, because you are just watching XP happen, you're watching things level up, and it is just immediate. And you get XP whether you succeed or fail. So, if you're doing a bunch of parkour, you're shooting at a long distance, you don't need to necessarily be great at that in the beginning. In fact, stumbling through it, but trying it is what gives you the XP. It's what gives you growth. And then later on, you'll get even more XP by being good at it. But just in those early levels, you can just try things. Even if your character isn't meant to do it or particularly good at it, it'll actually be to your advantage. In fact, the amount of XP you need to rank up these individual skills is tied directly to whatever rank it is. So the lower rank you are, the easier it is to rank up, so that you can try to be like, oh, I'm not so good at, say, etiquette, but I'm gonna really try to win over these nobles. And just for trying in those early levels, you'll start to get a little bit of an advantage. You'll start to really be able to, you're not gonna be a master by the end of the session. It's a game that's meant for very long-term play, but it is always rewarding you for breaking the mold, for trying new things, for experimenting, and for solving problems in just a variety of strange and interesting ways.
And for something that your character is an expert, let's say my character is like something like a scientist, an inventor, let's say, to be thematic, and they always like the one thing that they do during downtimes and during their background and between sessions and during sessions is like tinkering and creating new stuff. Will there be like a diminishing returns type of system after one point? And like you say, if I do something for the first time, it gets really fast progressing. It gets progressively fast. But something that my character is truly expert, it's difficult to progress it after a certain point.
Yeah, to an extent. So I've never been a huge fan of punishing players for wanting to play as very specific, right? If you are somebody that's set off to play an assassin, and you're gonna, by God, you're gonna be an assassin this entire campaign. That's how you have your fun. It will take more XP to rank up, say, stealth and one-handed and maybe science to make poisons as you get better and better at it. But at the same time, you are going to be able to succeed more challenging checks, which are worth more XP. So if you are pushing yourself and trying to be doing more challenging things for someone of your archetype and really trying to constantly go towards greater and greater challenges, yes, XP will slow down for you a little bit. It does feel different than those early days where we give you a little bit of a boost, but it is not truly diminishing to the point where we want you to use a ton of different skills. We just want you to have fun. That's it. And players make these crazy shifts in the middle of the game, sometimes purposefully, sometimes because the story ends up kind of driving this, sometimes it's improv. And other players just stick to their guns and really become the best that they could be at the specific things they started out doing. And both of those characters are awesome.
Yeah, I really like your answer. Actually, it's a very good answer because in a way it kind of mirrors reality. What I'm saying is, like, if you do the exact same thing over and over, maybe it won't be as rewarding as when you did it the first few times. But if you push yourself and, like, instead of inventing the same stuff, you're inventing crazier ideas and under difficult circumstances, then you still get to progress and still feel that things are rolling and I'm not stagnant or something, right?
Absolutely that.
No, that's actually a very, very good system. So already we might return back to the system and to the story, most likely the story. Tell me about some of your inspirations about this game. Inspiration about both the lore and inspiration about the mechanic, like which d100 system you have played and which like books or movies or whatever you inspired, or other TTRPGs.
Yeah, of course. So in its very early inspirations, I was inspired by just a lot of neo-Victorian movements. I was inspired by a lot of industrial art, and of course, like just to do a very surface level, the art of H.R. Geiger, to see all that kind of strange weirdness. And I just loved sort of that clash of heavy, blocky industrial with the kind of very, very sleek but rigid sort of Gothic architecture. And I wanted to not just make a setting that had those elements, but felt like it had those elements. It had the sleek, nobles in their beautiful dresses, but it also had the terrible, class imbalance. It had pollution. It had, violence from military organizations. And I really enjoyed that as like a theme to explore. On top of that, mechanically, I was very inspired by, as everybody probably notices, Call of Cthulhu. Mechanically, the d100 system, really watching skills level up. Obviously, it levels up a little differently than Call of Cthulhu, hence the immediate versus the session end, but very much inspired by that. On top of this, I wanted to really take a lot of inspiration from how the Elder Scrolls, specifically Morrowind, worked, and in the way that you would level up skills and specifically utilize kind of greater parts of yourself to grow your character, but tweaked it for a tabletop setting. Obviously very much changing how the combat system would work to be much more tooth and nail, rather than the roll and see if I hit you, oh, I didn't kind of vibe. And it's really funny. So I was so inspired by the Elder Scrolls, also a little bit writing style wise, in which they have a very grounded, zoomed in world with these empires, these very personal stories. But the more you learn about the greater lore outside, the more you see how weird and strange and contradictory it gets. Honestly, just the writing of Michael Kirkbride in general was just a huge inspiration for me. But anyway, the reason why I say it's funny is because a couple of fans from the server have actually made a hack of Crucible of Aether and put it in the Elder Scrolls universe, because it ended up matching the vibe so well. Obviously, unofficially,
What did they do exactly? Did they put your game into the video game Morrowind?
No. They took the setting of the Elder Scrolls and wrote that for Crucible of Aether, changing the mechanics enough to fit the Elder Scrolls world. Yeah, and it's really cool. And it works so well.
It's always amazing to see community, the involvement of community and how they play your game. And I wanted to ask a little bit before, about the instant progression instead of leveling up. Generally, to my experience, most players, I guess it's a personal preference, but let's say that most players do not really enjoy leveling up. And it's especially it's like a burden, but it's super based on preferences. But let's say, to your experience, this type of progression versus the standard level up system, how does it fare? How does it receive from your players?
So it ends up working really, really well, and it's down to this. I find that a lot of things that a lot of reasons why people don't like leveling up, kind of comparing it to, say, D&D, is that leveling up in a lot of RPGs, once again, not all RPGs, just a lot of the big names, Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, comes with just a lot of new things, right? You hit level 2, you get all the level 2 stuff, right? You're only going to level up, say, 19, 20 times throughout your campaign, so it front loads you with so much bookkeeping, with so much homework, with so many things to do. In COA, leveling up happens in two situations. When your skills level up, in which we just differentiated by saying they rank up. So in the middle of a session, you get enough XP for your say firearm skill to rank up. you roll a die, it goes up by 5, it goes up by 6, and you just make one number go up. It's easy, it's quick, it happens in 2 seconds, it doesn't interrupt the flow of the table, and it feels good to immediately be better at things. But not trying to diminish the complexity of leveling up. When you level up enough skills, you do get to advance as your character, but that only gives you 2 things, but 2 incredibly important things. You get to increase your attributes. Cool, your strength goes up, another number goes up, that's awesome, but it's not as unique. You also get a mastery point, which you use to spend on those career trees that I mentioned earlier. And this is where you get a bunch of really unique abilities. And the thing about career trees, and the thing about the fact that there are so many interesting and strange careers, is that you could just get abilities that are for any kind of play style you want. So you could get skills that are kind of your classic tabletop RPG, combat ability, but you can also get skills that make you able to intimidate people with the etiquette skill as long as you are judging them non-verbally the entire time. You can get skills that help you craft things. You can get ones that make it so that you actually get healed more by smoking cigarettes. Like, this is where you get a little bit of the goofy abilities that exist within this game. And even still, it is a singular choice. So you're not sitting there going through 800 different pages trying to figure out, oh, do I get this? Oh, I get this new ability. Do I get this? So leveling up is always quick and easy.
You mentioned, what type of die do you roll when to increase your stats?
It's a d6. It is also tied to your attributes. Every single skill has an attribute that dictates how many additional points you rank up by. So every single skill goes from rank 1 to 100. And there are 40 skills in the game. And if you are somebody who's trying to rank up a bunch of skills, having them only rank up one level at a time would be tedious and awful. So it's a d6 and you're adding your attributes, which generally averages to about 4 to 6 ranks per level.
Ranks is like a percentage. Ranks is like
Yeah, it's literally percentage. I always tell this really funny story, which is somebody who is very new to role-playing games and d100 games and all that looked down at their character sheet and said, okay, I see that I have a 43 in stealth, but can you tell me what my % chance of succeeding the stealth check is going to be? And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, 43% chance.
Exactly. That's the beauty of the d100. So walk me through an example. Let's go with stealth that you mentioned. I have a 43% stealth. And during a session, I sneak upon, I shadow an NPC that I need to track their movement. When exactly do I roll? And when I roll, let's say I rolled a 6, now from 43 I will have like 49% in stealth. Is that exactly how it works?
Yeah, so assuming that you're following an NPC, so as soon as you decide at the table you're going to follow the NPC, you'll roll your d100. There's a couple other things you would add to it to increase your chances, because the game's all you're not just a raw stat block. It's also a game that promotes player creativity, which we can talk more about that. But the way that you would roll, and depending on whether you succeed or fail, you'd get a different number of experience points. And then, assuming that was enough to increase your stealth, you would roll a d6. You would say get 4. Stealth's attribute is dexterity. So let's just say you have 2 dexterity modifiers. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Your stealth increases by 6.
Okay, so you have like a base, just in case you roll a 1 or something. You gain something from a base stat. But I find it's very engaging and interesting and well-made progression system. Always keep you up to your toes with the things that you can do during the session, directly impact the progression of your character, and this is fascinating. And there's a bit of microphoning. Can hear my voice for some reason right now.
Okay, let me see if I can fix that. How's that
Yeah.
sound?
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. I kinda can again, but yes, I'm hearing my voice. It wasn't happening before. Sorry.
That's weird. Oh well.
Yeah, is it from me? No, I think it's better now. Testing 1 2. Yes, it's better now. That was weird.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's get into what's next for Crucible of Aether.
Yeah, so we had an incredibly successful Kickstarter, which not just did we get the game funded and we're able to start, really finishing the physical book, which is really what the money was about. It was about buying art and being able to print it. That's what we needed. We also managed to get enough money for a printed version of the one-shot adventure, a short story by the amazing Jess Levine, who also just recently had a very successful Kickstarter herself for the Going Rogue and Galactic combination of games. We also are getting virtual tabletop support. And yeah, it is. And we are currently taking that money and literally just paying artists and our editors and all of that to get the game out. We are trying to get the book to at least initial first draft print by the beginning of next year. But obviously, as we do it, the more, what's the word? The more we get these late pledges in, the more art we can buy, which is really what it's about. The more the more you support us now, the prettier the book gets.
Then you mentioned the VTT, a virtual tabletop. Which one?
We are going to we're gonna do Foundry.
Okay, Foundry is the best. Congratulations for choosing.
Yeah, it's so easy to code it and things like that. So
yeah. And it's very interesting that you are also the ones that will be supervising your own VTT, because there are many times that games are being, the modules are created by someone who is like a fan or something, but this is not like it's always better to have like the team supervising the VTT. And congrats on choosing Foundry, because it really opens many doors. It's the next gen. And so let's throw in a bomb question right here. What advice would you give to an indie TTRPG designer going to their first Kickstarter?
I would say, first of all, I know this is age-old advice. I know that I'm going to be the 100th person to say it, and I'm actually really glad I'm the 100th person to say this, because every indie TTRPG person needs to learn this, which is make sure you get yourself paid. Do not stress out by saying, oh, well, we need $4,000, but there's no way we'll get $4,000. I'm going to ask for $2,000, even though it's not enough. Do not do that. Make sure that you as an artist will get paid, that you end up taking care of yourself and your team, and do not sacrifice your own well-being for your game. If you are putting your passion into your game, success will come. You'll end up making what you need to make. Do not throw yourself under the bus just so that you can have one success.
That's a hell of advice. I wish I could have adopted it myself, earlier. Yeah, obviously these things are important. Tell me now about. All right, so the game's coming early next year. Tell me, like, if you can reveal any more long-term type of goals, like, will you do some supplements, some more stories for Crucible of Aether, or will you go to a new game altogether or something? if you can't reveal anything, of course.
Yeah, so I think it all just depends on its life afterwards. I mean, obviously, we're all creatives here. We've made our huge worlds. We want to live in there forever. And I would love to. I would love to make more stories. I would love to make supplements. I'd love to make expansions, with additional content and all kinds of things like that. But we'll see, I mean, we will see what happens. If the game's following continues to be strong, which it is very much right now, I will at least try to come out with increased expansions and things like that. But maybe I'll come up with a second edition, maybe a whole new game. I it really just depends. First, we got to finish the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us, where can people find you and Crucible of Aether? If you have a Discord, if you're which social media you're active.
Yeah, so I just seriously check out Crucible of Aether on Kickstarter, even if you don't feel like supporting us or feel comfortable doing that. All of our socials are there. Our Discord invite is there. Everything that you need to go and see what we're all about is going to be there. So go look up Crucible of Aether on Kickstarter.
Excellent. So everything is over there. The link is in chat. I will drop it on YouTube as well. How about you give us a message to all your fans out there, all the Crucible of Aether fans?
I just want to say, for everyone that has supported Crucible of Aether, I just want to say absolutely thank you. I thought my weird RPG that didn't really have systems that matched any other popular game at the time was going to be lost to time, but it turns out, as someone who I care a lot about has told me again and again, I have found my freaks. Thank you.
That's a lovely message. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching it, give us a like, subscribe. Make sure you check the Kickstarter and late pledge. Support Jackie and Crucible of Aether. I have your host and narrator, John. Thank you so much for joining us. And stay legit, stay meta, everyone.